So if you guys are using Clerk like I am in your Next.js application for authentication, instead of using NextAuth or whatever other authentication provider there is out there, you're gonna run into this little quirk that I found with my application. I just want to show you guys how I kind of solve this. So what I've seen is that if I go to my profile page, so I'm logged in because with Clerk, so I just go to manage account, which is my profile page over here. So quick explanation, these two fields over here, first name and last name, that's being handled by Clerk. So if I go over to my dashboard, you will see that it's my Clerk dashboard. There's my first name and there's my last name. And then this section here, banks and the bank information, that's been handled by Prisma and my database, but that's not the point. The point is, as soon as I go and update this, so I'm gonna go and change this to say Johan Runner, which is the first name and the last name, and I click on update, and you guys will see that it stays on John Doe. So the update completed, but that's still John, that's still Doe, that's still John, that's still Doe. So the front end didn't really update. If we look at the code quickly, so under my user profile over here, I just have a simple form which then submits all the form fields that I've just shown you guys, and that does a mutation to my server-side API, and I pass through the first name, last name, and then the banking details as well. I wait for a response, I catch my error, and then finally I just remove my loading state. So if I go over to my API side, which is my back end or my server side, you guys will see over here, I'm just going to close the sidebar to make it bigger a bit. So over here I have this run update mutation that I've created, which is a private procedure. I'm catching the first name, last name, and the banking details over there. And then what I'm doing is in my Prisma, I'm updating the user with the user IDs equal to what I've passed through, and I'm saving the banking details. So that's all works fine, right? I do the same thing with Clerk though. So I use my Clerk client and I update the current user by passing through the user ID and the first name and the last name. But because this is server side, the client side of the user side is not updating. While in the back end it is updating, but if the front end is not, because if I go back to this page, it still says John Doe. Now that changed back to John Doe, so immediately the user think something must be wrong with this application, right? So the only way you can see the changes if you go dashboard, I refresh the application, and now that refresh the application, now you can see my change saying Johan Runner, and that's a quirk that you don't want having in your application, right? So how can we fix this? I found this little method that you can actually attach. So if I go Control B to open up my sidebar, go to user profile, go to my index file. Right here in my finally, what I can do is, because Clerk does provide me this use user hook over here with Clerk, and then I can extract all my user information from the user hook by using this user, and that gives me access to my username, user surname, etc. to update it. But it also has a method on it that I can use, and that method is going to come here down to finally. I'm going to change this to async because that method is asynchronous. I'm going to add my brackets over here because I didn't have any brackets, because it just looks cool to code without any brackets, right? I'm going to do await. I'm going to do user dot reload. So that's the method I'm going to call, is the reload method. So now if I save this, okay, and now we have that update. I'm going to go back to my dashboard just to make sure everything's still running. Johan Runner, go back to manage account, and now here by manage account, if I change this, instead of Johan, let's say Jane Doe. So this is just Clerk. I'm not touching this because this is Prisma update. So if I click on update, you guys see that's Johan Runner, Jane Doe. But now as soon as that has been done, I have Jane Doe, and Jane Doe. So it changed also my user or my client side code in order to reflect the changes made server side to Clerk, which is cool because Clerk does provide you all of these hooks that you can use to do things like this, which is neat. And by now you guys must be thinking, wait, what is Clerk? What are you talking about? I've never used it, I've never heard about it, and you blabbing on about a quirk that I might face if I use Clerk for authentication. If that's your thoughts right now, there should be a video right above my head somewhere that's going to explain to you what Clerk is, why you should use it, and how to get started with it in your next application. If this video is not up yet, promise guys, it is coming soon. Until later, stay safe.